Some people are saying, oh well, we need to get foreign exchange back into the country, and the state of the economy. What do you say to that, brother leader?
Well, Tendai Mwari, if you examine that against, let us look at the politics of South Africa.
Yeah.
That is a kind of rationale that the politicians who lead South African politics,
the ANC,
would use. Mm-hmm. That is the kind of politics that we see in South Africa. And what is the result of it?
Yeah.
The result of it is that 23 years after the so-called end of apartheid, 23 years after apartheid has been dismantled, we find that the gap between white rich and black impoverished or black poor has been expanded.
Yes. Townships are still there.
The issue of land, the land question, is still a vexed question in South Africa. There's still a lot of violence over the land in South Africa. There's still a lot of racial violence in South Africa that's not being reported in international media.
Yep.
You can go on YouTube and see debates that are taking place on television where the question of race and the question of land is being discussed, and how impassioned these debates get, where African people are saying, we want our land back that you stole. You have no entitlement to any land in this country. So all of this, when you hear that kind of talk in relation to Zimbabwe, it is like saying, we want to import the politics of South Africa into Zimbabwe. Right. Well, if we do that, then the result will be all of the ills that we see in South Africa today, all of the suffering of our people, the continued suffering of our people, with no plan to put that right. Let me just share this. Tendai Mwari.
All right. So, Brother, from that point of view, in fact, look, I'm gonna substitute my question for a question from a texter, who has said, enjoying the show. How does your guest suggest the Zimbabwe government recover their local economy? And that's from Nyarai. Beautiful show name, Nyarai. So give thanks, Nyarai, for texting in. You could do the same, Kings and Queens, on 07377 920 703. Stay tuned if you want to call in. We're going to be opening up the lines very shortly. Tenamari, go ahead, Brother Lido.
Tenamari. Well, okay, first of all, I was also going to go on to say, in relation to the previous question that you asked, I come back to South Africa.
Right.
All the things that you can say about Zimbabwe,
right,
in terms of high unemployment,
right,
in terms of poverty,
okay,
in terms of suffering,
okay,
you can say for South Africa.
Okay, this is true.
In fact, you could say ditto for most African states.
Sorry, Brother, just to add to that, I put out a thing the other day that said that, they say that Robert Mugabe is the worst dictator in Africa, yet more people die every day in Congo. And my brother, your son, said that actually more people die in South Africa. Yeah, there's more violence and death in South Africa than there is in Zimbabwe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's more violence in South Africa.
Oh yeah.
You take the Marikana massacre that happened a few years ago. Had that been Zimbabwe,
yeah.
Can you imagine what the media coverage would be?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it would be?
Very true.
Right.
Go ahead, Brother. So you were saying, but there's poverty in South Africa as well, even though they have
worse poverty than Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Observers, both from South Africa who've been to Zimbabwe and from Zimbabwe who've been to South Africa have made the comparison each time in favor of Zimbabwe.
Right.
You see, yes, Zimbabwe has suffered from the sanctions, but the Zimbabwean government has been able to. Robert Mugabe promised that nobody would starve in Zimbabwe. It's a lie.
Yes.
That people are starving in Zimbabwe. That's a lie. That is mass starvation in that's European media propaganda.
Right.
That the government of Zimbabwe has been doing backdoor trade with various nations in order to keep the Zimbabwean economy going. Yeah? There's no easy answer to a situation like this. In fact, we have to understand, as the Osagefo Kwame Nkrumah said when Ghana became independent, that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up to the total liberation of the entire African continent. Papa Patrice Lumumba spoke similar words when he also became Prime Minister of the Congo. And what they were saying is no African nation can stand on its own.
That's right.
No African nation can resist.
So, but who can Zimbabwe justifiably link up with as another African nation?
Well, therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem. That the solution, the ultimate solution, will not come from anything that Zimbabwe can or will do on its own. We have to Pan-Africanize across the African continent.
Okay. The problem is, the brother leader, that most of us, even as on-the-ground Africans, seem unable to decipher these things, and see through these things, because we're so caught up in the popular narrative. And this is the issue in terms of where we go forward now with Zimbabwe. Kings and Queens, hold tight. We're going to be opening up the lines very soon, so do stay tuned, all right? But yeah, in relation to this moving forward vibration, because what Mnangagwa is talking about, one, we said compensation. Two, he has made the pledge that Africans will hold on to the land. Yeah. He's also encouraging foreign investment, and calling on foreign companies to invest and ensuring that their money will be safe in Zimbabwe. There's also, I saw a news report where one businessman in Zimbabwe was talking about Zimbabwe's relationship to the American dollar, and basically not relying on that, but relying on some other European formation of currency that would, he thought would be more beneficial to the thing. Yeah. But the point is that the thrust doesn't seem to be at this stage a self-reliant one. You've already made the point that whatever we can say about poverty in Zimbabwe is worse in South Africa. So by implication, greater involvement with the West, government on a governmental level or a corporate level, doesn't necessarily mean that the people of Zimbabwe will be better off. But it might mean that the GDP is higher. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
The figures look good.
African continent. There's huge investments in the Congo.
Yeah.
But that is the problem.
All right. So what needs what needs to happen over there? Because in the sense of
in the African world, sorry, Brother Shakara.
Yes.
Show me where in the African world foreign investment has served our interests.
Right.
Give me one model.
There